Hawthorne Army Depot. Morning heat. Recruits laughed as Noelle Archer unpacked a battered brass scope older than all of them. Junk, Gavin Ives sneered. Belongs in a museum. The laughter spread until Captain Callow lifted the scope. Etched into the rim, 180 meters, Kilo 1993 verified. The line went silent. Then Noelle stepped forward. No electronics, no numbers, one breath, one trigger press. The steel target rang. Dead center past a kilometer. The relic they mocked had just made history breathe again. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that values like honor, courage, and sacrifice still matter, join us in keeping their legacy alive. The Nevada desert woke hot even before sunrise. Heat shimmered across Hawthorne Army Depot, turning the horizon into liquid glass. Dust carried the bite of powder from the firing pits. Recruits lined up in rows, rifles polished, optics gleaming. Their scopes sparkled like jewels in the morning light. Confidence buzzed through the chatter, every voice claiming numbers and distance. Noelle Archer stepped in last. Her issued rifle hung from one shoulder. At her hip swung an old leather case, its strap cracked from years of use. She placed it on the ground. The case opened to reveal brass edges dulled by time, glass fogged by countless hands. It was her grandfather's scope, an antique among sleek carbon fiber and digital displays. Gavin Ives noticed first. He jabbed Zane Calder with his elbow and laughed loud enough to carry. That thing looks stolen from a museum. Calder grinned wide. Careful. Gavin, if you breathe on it, it might fall apart. Snickers rippled down the line. Rowan Pitts watched, frowning but silent. Priya Desai tilted her head. Noelle, you should grab a spare. That relic won't keep up with training. Noelle said nothing. She pressed the tripod into the dirt, screws creaking as they locked. Her silence stung sharper than insult. Sergeant barked orders. Pairs formed quickly. Each would rotate between shooter and spotter. The drills would push across distance. Every hit recorded. Her partner was Nate Riker. Solid. Quiet. Careful. He glanced at the scope but chose not to speak. Together they hauled gear to the 650-meter mark. Nate lay prone, cheek pressed to stock. Noelle knelt behind the old brass, face close to the cracked leather rest. The glass shimmered with heat mirage, bending lines into rivers, right to left. Steady 6. She murmured, lift over the ridge, hold a touch high. Nate adjusted, squeezed the trigger. Steel rang clean. First plate down. Around them, digital readouts flickered, some delayed by the dancing heat. Misses clanged wide. Confusion grew as the desert tricked modern glass. At 950 meters, Nate fired again. Another center hit. He raised an eyebrow. You saw that? Through this old thing, Noelle kept her eye on the scope, already scanning for the next sign. Whispers began to spread down the line. The order came for 11:20. Now her turn. Nate shifted behind his optic, feeding numbers low. Wind 5 left, drop 2 clicks. Noelle listened, then ignored. Grass bent uneven near the rocks. Mirage climbed in sharp spirals. She trusted what the air whispered. The rifle cracked, a pause, then steel clanged. Bullseye. The range stilled. Calder's grin faltered. Ives muttered under breath. Recruits stared at the battered scope in disbelief. Boots crunched over gravel. Captain Callow approached. Broad frame, scarred face, eyes like steel. The commander of the range stopped at her mat. Archer, he said flatly, explain your method. Noelle stood, rifle grounded. Mirage showed layered wind. Vegetation confirmed it. Predicted the shift. Sir. Callow studied her. Expression unreadable. You ignored your spotter's data. Yes, sir. His numbers caught surface wind. The air above told different. Callow crouched, lifted the scope. Brass caught faint light. His thumb rubbed away grime until letters emerged. Etched by hand 3,180 M Kilo 1993 verified. For a heartbeat, his face cracked. The scar along his jaw twitched. A memory pressed through discipline. Where did you get this? His voice was low, controlled. It was my grandfather's, Noelle said. Samuel Crowell? He passed it to me when I was 12. Recognition flashed behind his eyes. He set the scope down gently, almost with reverence. The gesture felt like returning a weapon to an old comrade. Report to my office at 1600, Callow ordered. Bring the scope. Then he walked away, leaving the line buzzing. The day bled on. Targets rose. Rifles cracked. Steel rang. But Noelle heard little. Her mind replayed Callow's reaction. The silence of his pause carried more weight than words. That night, barracks hummed with clatter and talk. Noelle sat on her bunk, the scope resting on her blanket. The leather strap glowed faint under the bare bulb. Her fingers traced the seam near the eyepiece. Something felt uneven. She twisted gently. The metal gave with a click. A hidden compartment slid open. Inside lay a folded slip of paper, edges yellowed but intact. Her hands shook as she opened it. 3 lines in faded ink stared back. Trust the wind. Trust yourself. See. Her breath caught. The words sank deep, heavier than any insult from the morning. Outside, desert wind slid through the open window. It rustled the note, whispering across her knuckles. She closed her eyes, listening to the rhythm of air. Tomorrow, she would face Callow again, with the scope in her hand, with her grandfather's message burning in her chest, and somewhere beyond the barracks walls, an invisible clock had already started counting down. The van climbed through the Appalachians, headlights cutting narrow paths in the fog. Forest pressed close on both sides, branches clawing at the steel. Every mile deeper felt like leaving the map behind. A gate appeared without warning, chain-link fence topped with coiled wire. Guards waited in muted uniforms, patches stripped of insignia. Their rifles looked custom, nothing standard issue. The gate groaned open, then slammed shut behind them. Engines cut. The recruits stepped out into silence thick enough to smother breath. Concrete buildings rose plain and gray. No banners, no names, only the echo of boots on cold ground. Master Sergeant Joel Bracken stood waiting. Lean frame, pale eyes that cut sharper than glass. You're late, he growled. Though the clock read exact, Noelle Archer shouldered her case. Gavin Ives smirked behind her. Zane Calder strutted as if the place were already his. Rowan Pitts and Nate Riker kept quiet, Priya Desai clutching her tablet tight. Bracken led them inside. The halls smelled of iron and oil. Bunks lined in rows, no decorations, no warmth. He spoke once more. Legacy means nothing here. Earn or leave. The morning came without bugle. Bracken kicked doors open before dawn, dragging them into frost-bitten air. The valley below sat wrapped in fog, targets faint through the haze. 3 shots each, he said. 600 out to 1200. No excuses. His voice was stone. Ives fired first. 2 clean hits at 600, misses widening with each step out. Calder followed, cocky grin holding until his last shot drifted wide. Rowan Pitts moved slow, breath steady. She clipped steel at 1,000, edged another at 1200. Riker held form but lacked precision. Priya spotted, but her screen lagged in the cold, numbers flickering. Noelle took position. Brass scope pressed to her cheek, mirage bending like rivers of heat. Crosswind steady. Lift high, she whispered. 3 plates rang sharp. At 950, she called another correction. The bullet struck true. Whispers carried down the line. Then came 1200. First shot skimmed steel and missed. Second drifted hard right. Third cut wide into dust. Calder muttered, "Guess antiques don't work miracles." Bracken wrote notes without looking up. Secure weapons. Debrief at 19. His tone betrayed nothing. Night fell early. Instead of rest, Bracken marched them into the forest. No lamps, no tech, just rifles in the dark. "Tonight you find the still line," he said, voice low. "If you can't, you leave." Branches snapped under boots. Ives cursed as he stumbled. Calder swore at shadows. Priya tapped her dead screen until the cold killed it fully. Noelle lay flat against damp leaves. She listened. A stream whispered somewhere north. Crickets fell silent when the wind shifted. The forest told stories to those who waited. She exhaled. pulled the trigger. Steel clanged from the dark. Again, Bracken ordered. She adjusted, listened for the empty pocket in the air. Another clang, then a third, 3 in a row. No glass, no numbers. Others failed. Rowan scraped 1 hit but missed 2. Riker's shots scattered. Calder raged, calling it luck. Bracken's voice cut him flat. Luck doesn't draw maps. Archer did. Back at the mess. Calder sat alone, fists tight. Noelle passed, paused just enough. Don't quit, she said quietly. We need every rifle. Then she walked on. 2 days later, Bracken called them to the long range. Targets gleamed at 1900, fog curling low in the valley. 3 rounds each. Find the still line or fail. Calder stepped up first. First bullet clipped the edge. Second centered. Third veered off with the gust. His jaw clenched tight. Noelle lay prone, silk strip beside her. She traced the symbols with her thumb, closing her eyes until the noise inside her chest faded. Trigger broke. Steel sang. She adjusted a fraction. Second shot dead center. Third echoed the same. 3 perfect strikes. The recruits stared. Silence thick. Even Calder's smirk vanished. Bracken finally spoke. That's the still line. She found it. For the first time. The team saw it wasn't magic. Not instinct. Not technology. It was stepping into the narrow band where chaos lost power. That night, Colonel Pike summoned Bracken. Papers lay stamped urgent. Orders came down. Audit clock still ticking. We need proof. Bracken didn't argue. Pike's voice carried finality. Archer goes. No more drills. Mission at dawn. The next morning, Bracken gathered them on the range. Command wants a field shot. We don't wait. His eyes cut to Noelle. Ives stared at the ground. Priya looked pale. Rowan folded her arms tight. Calder opened his mouth, then shut it. Bracken's voice was iron. Pack your gear. Archer, tomorrow you deploy. The words hung heavy. Training was over. Cold Meridian's test had begun. The MH-47 roared low across jagged ridges. No lights marked its frame, only the rhythm of blades pounding the dark. Cold air tore through the open ramp as boots slammed onto rock. Engines rose again. The helicopter dipped into black sky, leaving silence behind. The team crouched, breath fogging in the mountain air. They climbed fast, packs heavy, lungs burning. Bracken raised a fist, halting them at a ledge. Above, a faint buzz trembled enemy drone. Every chest froze. Nobody blinked. The machine circled, beams sweeping over stone, then drifted away. Shoulders loosened, heart still pounding. At dawn, pale light spilled over the valley. Below lay the fortress compound, carved into cliffs, stone walls lined with guards. The courtyard stood empty, waiting. Priya whispered calculations, her tablet flickering with strain. Calder took rear watch, jaw tight. Rowan Pitts scanned tree line. Nate Riker settled in beside Noelle Archer, spotting quietly. Noelle unfolded the tripod, locked her grandfather's scope into place. Brass caught the weak glow of morning. Her eye pressed close, heartbeat slowing. Target window in 3 minutes, Priya murmured, her voice steady. But her grip shook against the tablet. The courtyard door creaked open. Kadir Murad stepped out, shoulders broad, beard lined with gray. He walked slowly, scanning the sky as if in habit. Noelle's crosshairs tracked his chest. Finger found trigger slack. The world shrank to one breath. Then a child darted into frame. Bare feet slapped stone. He chased a ball straight past Murad. Noelle's body locked. Her finger froze. Not yet, she whispered. The boy kicked the ball, ran back through the door. Silence stretched after him. Murad turned east. Another moment. The man unrolled a mat, kneeling into prayer. Guards outside the walls never looked inward. Priya's whisper rushed. Wind, 8 west, lift from canyon floor, adjust .6. Calder snapped. Drop half, mirage tightening. His words pushed sharp. Noelle ignored both. She slid the silk strip open, traced faint symbols. Her thumb pressed against the ink. The still line was waiting. She listened. The faint stream below. Crickets gone silent. The valley's breath shifted like a held cord. Trigger eased. The rifle cracked. The round cut through air, vapor trail bending across heat, shimmer. 3.6 seconds stretched long as a lifetime. Murad bowed forward. The bullet struck clean. His body folded without sound. The courtyard held its silence. "Target down," Priya whispered. Barely audible. Riker confirmed with glass. No alarm. Guards didn't see. Disbelief colored his tone. A low rumble answered. Headlights swept across the hillside patrol truck, grinding upward. Beams slashed over rock, coming close. Too close. The team froze flat. Hearts pounded louder than engines. The light hovered, crawled past, then slipped down the trail. "Pack up," Bracken ordered. Voice calm. 12 minutes. Movements snapped precise. No wasted motion. They backed out of the hide, erasing prints. Each boot pressed into the same track. Hands smoothed disturbed dirt. Halfway down the ridge, Nate Riker's foot skidded on shale. Stones clattered loud. For a breath, the world froze. Rowan Pitts lunged, dragging him back with a sling. The team pressed on, pulse racing. Noelle caught Rowan's eye, gave a sharp nod. Gratitude in silence. Another engine growled below. Calder spotted the plume first, raising his fist. The convoy froze behind him. A second patrol truck crawled the lower road, lights cutting empty space. Only when it passed did Calder lower his hand. His jaw clenched. But he said nothing. The last climb chewed lungs raw. Then rotor thunder returned, heavy. "Welcome." The helicopter swept in, dust storming. They scrambled up the ramp. Packs thudded against metal. Bracken pulled the last man aboard. The bird lifted, tilting east, carrying them out of the valley. At High Hollow Station, Colonel Pike waited in a dim room. Shadows fell over the table where a wooden box sat. Inside lay the sealed drive. Passive optic footage. Not for public, for proof. Caro's stamp would come later. Tonight. Only silence filled the room. Noelle sat apart, scope resting across her lap, brass scratched, leather cracked, but steady as ever. Her hands still shook not from fear, but from the weight of what they had done. The mission was complete. Cold Meridian had its proof. The clock that threatened to erase them had been reset. For now. The debrief chamber smelled of leather and steel. Colonel Arthur Pike sat at the head of the table, shoulders square, jaw locked. A wooden box rested in front of him, sealed tight with wax. Beside him stood Ivy Callow, the inspector flown in to determine Cold Meridian's fate. Her gloves were white, her pen sharp as a blade. She broke the seal without a word. Lines of code filled her screen. Time stamps, coordinates, atmospheric readings tied to the shot. No images played, no sound, only cold data written in silence. Callow studied each line, lips pressed thin. Then she pressed the stamp. The sound cracked like a gunshot in the quiet room. Program continuation conditional, air released at once, though no one cheered. No applause, no smiles, just relief hidden under discipline. The knowledge they had survived another cycle. Pike closed the box with deliberate calm. "Proof delivered," he said, his tone flat. "That's enough to keep us breathing." Bracken leaned in the corner, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. He didn't praise, didn't soften, but his chin dipped once toward Noelle Archer. That gesture carried more weight than any speech. Noelle gripped her grandfather's scope in both hands. Brass scarred, leather strap worn, yet steady. The same tool mocked hours ago now sat like an anchor of truth. Captain Reed Callow stepped forward. He brushed his thumb over the etching, 3,180 M Kilo 1993 verified. His voice broke the silence. "Your grandfather saved men who never knew his name." Noelle met his stare, pulse steady. She didn't answer. Some truths needed no echo. Later that evening, Pike summoned her alone. From a drawer, he produced a black case. Inside gleamed a silver token, marked with a compass split by a frozen line, the emblem of Cold Meridian. "Number 14, Pike said. "Crowell was first. Now you." The token felt cold against her palm. No ceremony followed. No audience, just the quiet transfer of a burden meant to be carried. When she returned to the barracks, the others looked up. Rowan Pitts gave a small nod. Nate Riker set his rifle aside in respect. Even Calder held her gaze. No grin this time. Bracken addressed them all. Archer serves as both operator and instructor. Learn from her, or leave. His voice carried finality. Weeks passed. New recruits filled the range, optics gleaming under pale sun. Noelle set the battered scope on her mat. Silence rippling down the line. A young lieutenant smirked. With respect. Captain, that relic belongs in storage. His words echoed Ives from weeks before. Noelle didn't flinch. She slid the scope across the bench. Compare it yourself. The recruit bent down, pressed his eye to the glass. His smirk faltered. Mirage cut sharp. Wind shimmered visible. Every current alive inside the old brass. The line hushed. Noelle said nothing. The silence taught more than words. Training began. Rowan adjusted prone positions with calm precision. Riker drilled spotters in patience. Priya explained patterns of lift when tech failed. Calder stayed sharper than ever, changed by the night he almost broke. Noelle walked among them, voice steady. Noise lies. Numbers fail. When both betray you, find the line that holds. Her words stuck like nails. On the far end, the lieutenant fired again. Steel clanged. His eyes widened, no longer doubting. Noelle only nodded once and moved on. Later, alone in her quarters. She opened her grandfather's notebook. His handwriting filled the first pages, diagrams of wind and silence. She began adding her own notes beside his, a dialogue across time. At midnight she walked to the memorial garden. Unmarked stones stood pale under moonlight. Bracken's shadow stretched beside her. Crowell sat here once, he said, voice roughened by years. Thought he failed before he found the still line. You've carried it further. Noelle closed the notebook, eyes on the stones. She didn't reply. The wind moving through the pines answered for her. By dawn, the range hummed again. Fresh recruits lined up, unsure, expectant. The battered scope rested on its tripod, brass glowing faint in the light. Noelle adjusted the legs, leaned in, and spoke softly. Records fade. Distances change. But knowledge endures. The valley wind stirred, brushing against the silk strip hanging from her pack. Its symbols shifted with the air. A message carried forward. And in the stillness, Noelle Archer prepared the next generation to listen. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.